They are the faces that defined Black excellence on screen. Heroes, rebels, and icons who gave Hollywood its heart and fire. Their talent lit up generations, turning pain into art and struggle into glory. But behind the fame, tragedy often waited in the shadows. Some fell too soon, others vanished without warning, leaving behind silence where there was once thunder. In this video, we uncover 15 Black actor deaths that shook Hollywood to its core, stories of brilliance and heartbreak, of dreams cut short and legacies that refused to die. And as each curtain fell, one haunting question still echoed through time. Why did they have to leave so soon? Chadwick Boseman, the king who suffered in silence. On August 28, 2020, the world stood still. That was the day we lost Chadwick Boseman, a man who didn't just play a hero on screen, but lived like one until his final breath. He was only 43 years old, taken far too soon after a private, 4-year battle with colon cancer that no one knew about. Not his co-stars. Not his fans. Not even his closest collaborators. Think about that for a moment. 4 years of silent pain, surgeries, and chemotherapy, and yet he never let the world see his struggle. While his body fought the hardest battle imaginable, his spirit kept creating magic. He gave us Black Panther, Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame, and The Five Bloods, all while living with stage 3, then stage 4 cancer. He never asked for sympathy. He never complained. He just kept working, kept inspiring, and kept giving everything he had to his art and to his people. For millions, Chadwick wasn't just an actor. He was a symbol of pride, power, and possibility. Black Panther wasn't just a movie, it was a movement. It gave Black children a hero who looked like them and gave the world a king who carried himself with grace, humility, and strength. When his family shared the heartbreaking news through a single post on Twitter, the world stopped breathing. That message became one of the most liked tweets in history, a digital monument to a man who had quietly changed the world. From Hollywood to the White House, from Wakanda to every corner of the globe, tributes poured in. Chadwick Boseman didn't just leave behind films. He left behind faith, courage, and the reminder that true strength doesn't need to be seen to be legendary. Let's turn back the clock to a man who was decades ahead of his time, Paul Robeson. He wasn't just an actor, he was a force of nature. A scholar, an athlete, a lawyer, a singer, and a fearless activist. He was, quite simply, too powerful for the world he lived in. Born in 1898, Robeson rose from humble beginnings to become a true Renaissance man. He played professional football, graduated from Columbia Law School, and became an internationally acclaimed singer with one of the most unforgettable bass voices in history. On stage, he shattered barriers. His performance in The Emperor Jones in 1933 broke ground for Black actors, and his portrayal of Othello ran for nearly 300 performances, a record that stunned Broadway. But Paul Robeson's greatness extended beyond the spotlight. He spoke truth to power at a time when silence was safer. He condemned racism, colonialism, and injustice with a voice that demanded the world listen. And that's when America turned against him. During the Cold War, his outspoken political beliefs and sympathy towards socialism made him a target. The FBI opened files on him. His passport was revoked for 8 long years. His concerts were canceled. Hollywood blacklisted him. The man who once filled concert halls across continents was suddenly silenced in his own country. The constant persecution and isolation took a devastating toll. Behind closed doors, he battled depression and failing health. By the time he died on January 23, 1976, at 77, the younger generation hardly knew his name. Yet his story remains a mirror of America's contradictions, a nation that once celebrated him, then erased him. Paul Robeson paved the way for every Black performer who followed, paying a price so others could dream freely. His legacy is not just art, it's courage, brilliance, and the reminder that some voices are too powerful to ever stay silent. Nipsey Hussle, the man who tried to save his neighborhood. We're playing a long game. We don't want the money to stop when we're gone, when we can't work no more. We want it to outlive us. We want it to be generational. Nipsey Hussle. March 31, 2019, a day the world will never forget. If you were anywhere near social media, You remember that moment. The disbelief, the heartbreak, the silence. Nipsey Hussle, born Ermias Askedam, was shot and killed right outside his own store, the Marathon Clothing in South Los Angeles. He was only 33. His death didn't just shake hip-hop. It sent shockwaves through Hollywood, through every black community across America, through anyone who had ever dreamed of changing where they came from. Yes, Nipsey was a rapper, but he was also a visionary, a businessman, and a bridge between the streets and the stars. He had been producing a documentary, stepping into film projects, and his long-term partner was actress Lauren London, tying him deeply to the heart of the entertainment world. What made his death unbearable wasn't just the violence, it was the purpose behind his life. Nipsey was investing in his people, building jobs, opening local businesses, mentoring kids to keep them away from gangs. He was literally standing in front of the store he built in his own neighborhood when his life was taken by someone from that same community. The tragedy is cruelly poetic. Here was a man who escaped the cycle, who could have left Crenshaw forever, but instead he came back to rebuild it. He poured millions into a community everyone else forgot. He worked with the LAPD to reduce gang violence. He was a father, a partner, a symbol of hope. And in broad daylight on a Sunday afternoon, that hope was shot down. Nipsey's body may have fallen that day, but his dream, his marathon, still runs on in every young person he inspired to believe that greatness can be born from struggle. Sidney Poitier, the legend who changed Hollywood forever. On January 6, 2022, the world stopped for a moment. CNN confirmed that Sidney Poitier, the legendary actor, director, and activist, had passed away at the age of 94. He lived a long, full, extraordinary life. And yet, his death still hit like a thunderclap. Because somehow, it always felt like Sidney would live forever. He wasn't just a Hollywood legend. He was the legend. The man who shattered barriers that had held black actors back for generations. In 1964, Sidney Poitier became the first black man ever to win the Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in Lilies of the Field. Think about that, 1964. Nearly 4 decades after the Oscars began, and only then did a black man finally hold that golden statue. But that one wasn't just his. It belonged to every black actor who came before him, and to everyone who would follow in his footsteps. Sidney didn't stop at making history, he made meaning. Every role he took carried weight, purpose, and pride. In the Heat of the Night, he embodied Virgil Tibbs, delivering that immortal line, "They call me Mr. Tibbs." In Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, he dared to confront America's deepest fears about interracial love, at a time when such marriages were still illegal in many states. And in A Raisin in the Sun, he brought the black family experience into the heart of American cinema with unmatched grace and humanity. Sidney Poitier was more than an actor. He was a movement. A man who demanded dignity not just for himself, but for his people. He refused roles that mocked or minimized black life. He knew that every character he portrayed would speak for millions who had never been allowed to speak for themselves. So when he left us, it wasn't just the death of a man. It felt like the closing of an era. Sidney Poitier stood for excellence, for class, for possibility. He made Hollywood see what it had long refused to see, the brilliance, the beauty, and the power of black talent. He didn't just open doors. He broke them off their hinges, so no one would ever have to knock again. Michael Clarke Duncan, the gentle giant who touched Hollywood's heart. When news broke on September 3, 2012, that Michael Clarke Duncan had died at just 54, Hollywood fell silent. The man they called the gentle giant, towering at 6 feet 5 inches, with a voice that rumbled like distant thunder, was gone. Just weeks earlier, he had suffered a massive heart attack. His fiancée at the time, Omarosa Manigault, found him unresponsive and fought to save him with CPR, keeping his heart beating long enough for hope. But after nearly 2 months in the hospital, that great heart finally gave out. Michael's story was the kind of Hollywood dream that feels written by destiny. Before he was an actor, he worked as a bodyguard, protecting stars like Will Smith, Jamie Foxx, and the notorious B.I.G. He watched them shine under the lights, quietly imagining himself on the other side of the camera one day. And then, miraculously, that day came. His breakthrough role as John Coffey in The Green Mile wasn't just acting, it was revelation. Playing a death row inmate blessed with supernatural healing powers, Michael poured soul, innocence, and raw humanity into every frame. When he whispered, "I'm tired, boss," audiences across the world broke down in tears. That performance earned him an Academy Award nomination and eternal respect as one of the most soulful presences ever to grace the screen. Though he continued to work steadily afterward, Hollywood never gave him all the leading man roles he deserved. Still, his kindness, humility, and deep laughter made him unforgettable. When he died, friends, co-stars, and fans alike mourned not just the actor, but the man. Tom Hanks called him a gift. Others said his smile could light up a room, his hug could heal a heart. In the end, the same physical strength that made him iconic may have also been his burden. Heart disease, the silent killer that takes so many black men, claimed another bright soul. But Michael Clarke Duncan left behind something stronger than muscle or fame, a legacy of grace, compassion, and humanity that still moves people today. He wasn't just a giant in size. He was a giant in spirit, and Hollywood will never see another quite like him. Bernie Mac, the king of comedy who left too soon. Bernie Mac's death felt like a punch to the soul. On August 9, 2008, at Chicago's Northwestern Memorial Hospital, the world lost not just a comedian, but a force of nature. He was only 50 years old, still rising, still unstoppable. Just when it seemed Bernie was reaching his true peak, life pulled the curtain far too early. Born Bernard Jeffrey McCullough on Chicago's South Side, Bernie came up the hard way. No shortcuts, no lucky breaks, just raw talent, grit, and endless nights performing in smoky clubs where laughter was his only paycheck. He wasn't made overnight, he was forged by struggle. When his time finally came, Bernie didn't just walk onto the stage, he owned it. His breakout on Def Comedy Jam became the stuff of legend. Standing under the spotlight, he didn't flinch, didn't beg for laughs, he commanded them. That swagger, that fearless honesty, it made Hollywood take notice. Soon, Bernie Mac wasn't just a comedian, he was a household name. Then came The Bernie Mac Show, a masterpiece of truth and humor. Playing a fictional version of himself raising his sister's kids, Bernie brought heart, chaos, and deep love to television. He broke the fourth wall like no one before him, talking directly to viewers as if you were family. It was more than a sitcom, it was a mirror of real life, filled with laughter and lessons that hit home. Hollywood couldn't get enough. Friday, Ocean's 11, Transformers, Bernie stood toe-to-toe with the biggest names and still stole the scene every single time. He had that rare spark, a mix of charm, wisdom, and that Chicago fire that made you feel like he was one of your own. But behind the jokes and applause, Bernie was fighting a silent battle. For years, he lived with sarcoidosis, a painful lung disease that tested his body but never his spirit. Even when his health declined, he refused to slow down. Because that was Bernie, the man who kept showing up even when the odds said he couldn't. In 2008, pneumonia struck, and with his immune system weakened, the fight became too much. After weeks in the hospital, the world held its breath, praying for that trademark smile to shine again. But on that August morning, it faded forever. His family said he passed peacefully, surrounded by love. Yet for millions, the loss was anything but peaceful. Bernie Mac made us laugh until we cried. And when he left, he made us cry because we could never laugh quite the same again. Whitney Houston, the angel who drowned in the spotlight. Out of Los Angeles came the news that shook the entire world. On February 11, 2012, just one day before the Grammy Awards, Whitney Houston, the golden voice of a generation, was found lifeless in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. She was only 48 years old. The shock was immediate and universal. Everyone knew Whitney had battled addiction, but we all believed she'd rise again. She was preparing for a comeback, the story of survival the world wanted to see. Instead, we got a tragedy that felt impossible to believe. Whitney wasn't just a singer, she was a force of nature. Her role in The Bodyguard alongside Kevin Costner made her a global superstar. The film grossed over $400 million, and its soundtrack, powered by her haunting rendition of I Will Always Love You, became one of the best-selling albums in history. That song didn't just play on the radio, it lived in people's hearts. She later shined in Waiting to Exhale and The Preacher's Wife, proving she was as radiant on screen as she was on stage. Hollywood adored her. She seemed unstoppable. But addiction doesn't care about beauty, talent, or fame. Whitney's battles played out in public, often painfully. Her tumultuous marriage to Bobby Brown turned into tabloid spectacle. Her once heavenly voice began to crack under the weight of years of struggle. Every rehab stay was followed by new hope and new heartbreak. When the coroner's report came back, it told a story no one wanted to hear: accidental drowning, with heart disease and drug use as contributing factors. Whitney Houston, the woman who had everything, was taken by the one thing she couldn't conquer. That night, as music executives gathered for pre-Grammy parties just floors below her hotel suite, the industry celebrated without realizing an icon had already slipped away. The next day, the Grammys went on, but they became something different. A farewell to a voice that defined love, loss, and the impossible price of fame. Cicely Tyson, the woman who refused to bow. I was thinking to myself, what are the factors that lead someone to have this kind of longevity in a career like this? On January 28, 2021, Hollywood stood still. Cicely Tyson, the queen of grace and strength, was gone at 96, just 2 days after releasing her memoir. She had been vibrant, doing interviews, promoting her book, sharing her journey with the same poise that defined her entire life. And then, suddenly, she was gone. It felt as if she had spent those last days saying a quiet, elegant goodbye. Cicely Tyson wasn't just an actress, she was royalty in Hollywood. For over 7 decades, she redefined what it meant to be a black woman on screen. She never compromised, never accepted a role that disrespected her people, and never stopped demanding better representation. Her shelves were lined with 3 Emmys, a Tony Award, an honorary Oscar, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom, not as decorations, but as proof of a life spent breaking barriers. In 1972, her role in Sounder earned her an Academy Award nomination, making her one of the first black women ever nominated for Best Actress. She portrayed icons, Coretta Scott King, Harriet Tubman's mother, and so many strong women who mirrored the dignity of her own community. And in the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman, she aged from a young enslaved girl to a 110-year-old witness of the civil rights era, so authentically that many believed Miss Jane Pittman was a real person. What made Cicely Tyson extraordinary wasn't just her talent, it was her integrity. At a time when Hollywood offered black actresses only stereotypes and servitude, she said no. She would rather face unemployment than play a role that insulted her people. She understood that images shape perception, and she refused to let hers be used to diminish anyone's worth. That courage was rare. That conviction, unshakable. When she passed, tributes poured in from Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, Viola Davis, Zendaya, and generations of black actresses who walked the path she had paved. Her death stunned the world because even at 96, Cicely Tyson seemed eternal. She had survived it all, shattered ceilings, and lived long enough to see an industry she helped transform. Her legacy isn't just written in awards, it lives in every black woman who dares to stand tall, speak truth, and demand respect. Heavy D, the overweight lover who made hip-hop smile. He was the man who made hip-hop dance, not fight. But on November 8, 2011, the beat stopped. Heavy D, born Dwight Arrington Myers, was found dead at his Los Angeles home. He was only 44 years old, gone far too soon, leaving a hole in the heart of hip-hop. What made it even more shocking was that just 2 weeks earlier, he had lit up the BET Hip Hop Awards stage, full of life and energy. No one could have guessed that performance would be his last. Like Bernie Mac and Michael Clark Duncan, Heavy's health had quietly become his greatest enemy. Behind that signature smile was a man battling weight and heart problems that would tragically claim his life. Heavy D wasn't your typical rapper. In an era when hip-hop was turning harder and darker, he brought joy, rhythm, and fun. With his crew, Heavy D and the Boys, he gave us hits like Now That We Found Love and Somebody For Me, music that made you feel good. He broke barriers too, crossing over into acting with roles in A Different World, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and Boston Public. His charm was effortless, his presence unforgettable. That November day, after a simple shopping trip, Heavy came home and said he was having trouble breathing. Moments later, he collapsed on his walkway. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. Doctors at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center couldn't save him. The autopsy revealed a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot in his lung caused by deep vein thrombosis, linked to his weight and heart disease. Heavy D's death was a wake-up call. It reminded the world that success can't protect you from what's happening inside your body. He was the bright, positive face of hip-hop, a man who never picked fights, never courted controversy, and lived to make people happy. When he died, it wasn't just a legend we lost. It was the joy, the energy, and the laughter he brought to every beat. On July 24, 2012, the world quietly lost a man who had changed television forever. Sherman Hemsley, the unforgettable face behind George Jefferson, passed away alone in his El Paso, Texas home at 74. When the news broke, it stunned millions, not just because he was gone, but because of the strange and heartbreaking story that followed. For over a decade, Sherman Hemsley was George Jefferson, the bold, hilarious, and unapologetically black businessman who strutted into living rooms across America and changed how the world saw sitcoms. The Jeffersons wasn't just comedy, it was culture. It tackled race, class, and ambition in ways that were revolutionary for the 1970s and 80s. With his sharp wit, fiery energy, and perfect timing, Sherman turned George Jefferson into a symbol of black pride and success. His trademark walk, his booming voice, and those unforgettable one-liners made him a television legend. But what happened after his death was something no one expected. Instead of being laid to rest, Sherman's body remained in refrigeration for nearly 4 months, caught in a bizarre legal battle. A man claiming to be his half-brother demanded a DNA test to prove his relation, hoping to claim part of the estate. At the same time, friends and business partners argued over whether Sherman had wished to be buried or cremated. While lawyers fought in court, the man who once made America laugh was left waiting for peace. When Sherman Hemsley was finally buried in November 2012, the ceremony was small, quiet, far too small for a man who had brought joy to millions. Even in death, the battles didn't end. Court disputes over his estate dragged on, revealing that Sherman, despite his fame, had left behind little money. The irony was painful. The actor who once portrayed one of TV's most successful businessmen had struggled with financial hardship in real life. Sherman Hemsley's story is both inspiring and tragic. He made history through laughter, broke barriers with courage, and gave a voice to a generation. Yet, his final chapter reminds us how even legends can be forgotten when the spotlight fades. John Singleton, the visionary who changed black cinema forever. He was only 24 when he shook the world. John Singleton, a film school kid from South Central Los Angeles, became the youngest director ever nominated for an Oscar, and the first black filmmaker in history to be recognized for Best Director. His debut film, Boys and the Hood, didn't just make noise. It made history. It captured the struggle, the hope, and the humanity of young black men in a way Hollywood had never dared to show before. It turned Ice Cube into an actor, revealed Cuba Gooding Jr.'s depth, and gave a voice to a community that had long been silenced. John Singleton didn't just direct movies, he created movements. From Poetic Justice with Janet Jackson and Tupac, to Higher Learning, Rosewood, Baby Boy, and even Too Fast, Too Furious, his storytelling carried a heartbeat, one that pulsed with truth, pride, and purpose. He was a mentor, a trailblazer, a fighter for black representation both on and off screen. But on April 29, 2019, that powerful voice went silent. After returning from a trip to Costa Rica, John suffered a massive stroke. He was just 51 years old. For nearly 2 weeks, his family prayed for a miracle, but eventually made the heartbreaking decision to remove him from life support. The shockwave of his passing rippled across Hollywood. Actors, directors, and studios mourned not just the man, but the movement he started. His death was a brutal reminder that strokes can strike anyone, that black men face dangerous health disparities, and that visionaries are mortal too. Yet his influence never died. Ryan Coogler, Ava DuVernay, Barry Jenkins, all stand tall because John Singleton showed them how. He left us too soon, but his legacy will forever live in every story that dares to tell the truth about Black life, Black love, and Black resilience. John Singleton didn't just make films, he made us see ourselves. Nat Ina Reed. If you grew up in the late 90s or early 2000s, you probably remember Black, the girl group that gave us infectious hits like 808 and Bring It All to Me. Among them was Nat Ina Reed, the fiery, fearless one, a triple threat who could sing, rap, and act. You might also remember her as one of the confident Clovers in Bring It On, where her presence lit up the screen. But behind the rising star's glow was a life that would be cut short far too soon. On October 26, 2012, just 2 days before her 33rd birthday, tragedy struck. Nat Ina was crossing a street in Atlanta when she was hit by a car. The driver stayed and cooperated with police. There were no signs of alcohol, no reckless chase, just a sudden, heartbreaking accident that ended a bright light in an instant. She left behind her young son, whom she shared with rapper Corrupt, and a community stunned by how quickly life can turn. What made her death even more painful was the timing. Nina was in the middle of a comeback. After years of personal struggle and the breakup of Black, she had found her spark again. She was performing, recording new music, and reconnecting with fans who never forgot her talent. Those close to her said she was happy, focused, and ready to reclaim her place in the spotlight. Her funeral brought together artists and friends from Atlanta's vibrant music scene, including Lisa, Left Eye, Lopez's mother, a symbolic presence since Left Eye had discovered and mentored Black. And in a cruel twist of fate, both women, Left Eye and Nat Ina, lost their lives in car accidents, years apart but linked forever by talent, tragedy, and the music that defined a generation. Robin Harris, the legend who never got to see his own greatness. What's a goddamn shame? Speak Willie. That's my name. Goddamn it. Do I have to spell it out? Let me make it plain. Those words weren't just punchlines, they were a glimpse into the raw, untamed humor of Robin Harris, a man who could make an entire room erupt just by raising an eyebrow. On March 18, 1990, Robin Harris's booming laughter went silent. A heart attack took him at just 36 years old, cutting short one of the brightest rising stars in Black comedy. If you're too young to remember him, trust this, Robin wasn't just funny. He was real. As the host of the legendary Comedy Act Theater in Los Angeles, he ruled the stage where nearly every great Black comedian got their start. He created BBS Kids, a comedy bit so iconic it became an animated movie after his death. He also lit up the screen in Do the Right Thing and House Party, stealing scenes even in small roles. Robin's style was pure authenticity, sharp, fearless, and rooted in everyday Black life. He could turn a trip to the barbershop, a run-in with rowdy kids, or a Sunday at the swap meet into comedy gold. His delivery was bold, his timing perfect, and his presence magnetic. He was that dude, the one other comics looked up to, the one Hollywood had finally started to notice. But just as the world was about to know his name, tragedy struck. The night before his death, he was on stage doing what he loved most, making people laugh. He went home, went to sleep, and never woke up. When House Party hit theaters, Robin's role as the strict but hilarious father became one of the movie's standout moments. Audiences loved him. But by then, he was gone, robbed of the chance to see his own success. After his passing, BBS Kids was turned into an animated film as a tribute to his legacy. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it kept his spirit alive. Robin Harris's story is a reminder of how fleeting greatness can be. He fought his way up from small clubs to Hollywood's doorstep, only to be taken just as the door was opening. Gone too soon, but never forgotten, Robin's voice still echoes in every comic who dares to make the truth funny. Meshock Taylor, the gentleman who made laughter look effortless. On June 28, 2014, Hollywood lost one of its warmest souls. Meshock Taylor passed away at his Los Angeles home after a quiet battle with colorectal cancer. He was 67, surrounded by his wife and children, just as he wanted. His death stunned fans who had grown up with him on Designing Women and Dave's World. What made it even more heartbreaking was learning that he had fought cancer privately, choosing dignity and peace over publicity. In the 1980s and 90s, Meshack wasn't just another familiar face on TV, he was everywhere. His role as Anthony Bouvier on Designing Women broke barriers. He portrayed a smart, charming, and proud black man working in an interior design firm deep in the American South, a character written with humor, intelligence, and humanity. Meshack brought warmth and authenticity, showing audiences that representation could be powerful and graceful at the same time. After Designing Women, he lit up the screen in Dave's world and stole hearts in the cult classic Mannequin as the flamboyant Hollywood Montrose, a role that proved his unmatched comedic timing and fearless creativity. Beyond the camera, his voice brought life to countless animated shows, and his guest appearances made nearly every TV series he touched a little brighter. Meshack Taylor was a working actor in the truest sense, humble, versatile, and always giving his best. When the news broke that he had been ill for years, the world realized how gracefully he had carried his pain. In an age when celebrities share every battle on social media, Meshack chose silence. He spent his final days not in the spotlight, but in the warmth of family, love, and peace. When he was gone, his family released a simple statement: no spectacle, no headlines. Just quiet dignity, just like the man himself. Chris Lighty, the tragedy behind hip-hop's power broker. On August 30th, 2012, the hip-hop world stood still. Chris Lighty, the legendary manager who helped build the empires of 50 Cent, Diddy, Ja Rule, and Mariah Carey, was found dead in his Bronx apartment from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was just 44 years old. The news sent shockwaves across the industry. How could a man who seemed to have it all, money, respect, power, fall so suddenly, so tragically? Chris wasn't just another manager. He was a visionary, a businessman who saw hip-hop not only as music but as a global movement: fashion, film, tech, liquor, and lifestyle. As the co-founder of Violator Management, he turned street dreams into multi-million-dollar brands. He helped 50 Cent secure the vitamin water deal that made him richer than most of his peers. Lighty was the bridge between artistry and empire, a quiet genius behind some of the biggest names in entertainment. But behind that success was a man drowning in silence. On the day of his death, Chris had been arguing with his ex-wife about money. Though they were divorced, they still lived in the same building, bound by history and tension. Neighbors heard shouting, then a single gunshot. When police arrived, it was too late. The coroner called it suicide, but his mother never believed it. She insisted her son would never take his own life. His death became more than a tragedy, it became a wake-up call. Chris Lighty represented the dream so many chased, a black man who rose from the Bronx streets to the heights of corporate America. Yet even at the top, he couldn't escape the invisible weight of pressure, depression, and expectation. His story forced the industry to confront an uncomfortable truth: that success doesn't silence pain, that even the strongest men need help, and that behind every empire is a human being trying to hold it all together. So, tell me, which of these losses shocked you the most? If this story moved you, hit that like button, share it, and subscribe for more untold truths behind the legends who shaped our world.